WMFD TV in Mansfield. I have a question for Dr. Acton, followed by a question for Governor DeWine. I'll begin with Dr. Acton. Dr. Acton, yesterday you said in some countries they're looking at certificates to say that you are immune and therefore kind of able to go about your business. And I think that would be a dream thing if we can get something like that. My question is two parts. First, do you see this as a violation of our constitutional right to privacy? You must be aware, Dr. Acton, that your statement set off civil libertarian alarm bells across the state. And secondly, given that sentiment, do you still support mandatory vaccination and immunity certificates, despite that they seemingly contradict our Bill of Rights and constitutional protections?
Thank you for your question. I'm actually glad you raised it, because as a doctor, a scientist, I'm often not aware of the things that set off those triggers for people. So I was actually referring to it in a different context. I was referring to it in the context of business. And one of the things that had come before us as we were really trying to look at ways businesses could reopen and we could support the economy, about 2 weeks ago, one of the things that was really gaining a lot of traction was the ability to do antibody testing, which means not the testing that says you have the disease, but the testing that says you had it. And the dream about it is, for all of us, we've known that having a vaccine against this disease would keep you safe and you could go about your life. You wouldn't have to worry about passing it on to someone else or catching it yourself. You'd be safe on both ends. Immunity, typically in a viral infection, is another way that happens. If you are actually immune, you've had a disease and you've recovered, but you've built up antibodies in your blood, that also will protect you. It's almost as if you were vaccinated. So one of the business solutions that was being hoped for was that if people really did have immunity, that they could have proof of that. And by proof of that, it would be a doctor's note or a record that they had taken the test and they'd have test results. I agree. That is a policy discussion that is worth talking about, and if people would want to implement something like that. But my focus in the discussion was more on the wish, I think, that the dream that all of us have. Many of us have had this disease, and possibly asymptomatically, but we have no way of knowing we ever had it. And that would be really useful information I think we all would like to have. But that's in a relationship with our doctor, not in the relationship with the government.
Let me answer it a little bit as well from a policy point of view. This virus is going to be among us. And so what we're really looking to try to do with medical science is to give people, the individual, because all these are individual choices, the individual as much information as possible about their particular health situation. So no one would be compelled to do this, but it might give them some information that would allow them to make their own judgment about what they do. Let's give an example. Let's say there's a 70-year-old woman, man, they have a job that they love. They don't want to stop working. They may have some medical challenge. So they, in the new world that they're going to be living in for the next probably a year or so, they're going to make an individual choice. And their choice is going to be, do I go back to work? Do I go back to this job I love? How risky is that? And so having more information, for example, if they knew that they had actually had this but didn't realize it, and one of the things that we're seeing more and more is there are more evidence that there are people out there who have had it but really didn't know it. And if science would tell that person, well, that's going to give you immunity, and again, that's still not known for sure. But that would be a piece of information that person might want for themselves. So this is an individual choice. This is trying to inform that individual's decision. And that's really what we're talking about. It's individual rights. It's individual taking their life into their own hands and making their own choices and trying to help them get more information if they want more information.
answering that so thoroughly. So my second cue is for Governor DeWine. Governor, on March 23rd, you issued a state order built on two pillars. One, we need to flatten the curve. Two, we need to buy